Hey, it's me, Vicky Marie. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you are in this crazy world we're living in. So, a little bit of an unexpected live, just spontaneous, really. So, I've probably caught a lot of people out. Um, just something that popped up in my Twitter feed about this Spanish serial killer. So, those of you who watch my channel regularly, you'll know that I am based in Spain, born in the UK, but I've lived in Spain for more years than I care to remember. Recently we've been talking a little bit about serial killers on this channel because of the Gilgo Beach, the guilty plea of Rex Herman, etc. And I said in a video, it's unusual for Spain to have serial killers. The serial killers that we have had apprehended in Spain often are foreigners, not actually Spanish people. And then must have been because Google is always watching or listening. Probably because of that, it popped up in my Twitter feed about a Spanish serial killer that I didn't know anything about this case. And that's what I'm going to talk about in this video. And the reason he's in the news, apart from the fact he killed 11 elderly patients, this man is a real POS because he attacked the most vulnerable people in our society. He was a nurse, a care assistant at an old people's home, and he used this position to murder at least 11 elderly people, mainly women. Um, and you know what? I can't even find a picture of all the victims. I've been looking for a picture, of the victims, can't find one. Is it that they just don't matter because they were all over 80 years old? Terrible. Anyway, it reminded me a bit of Nancy Guthrie as well. Still no news in that case, even though overnight there was a lot of talk that something was going to break in the Nancy Guthrie case, but it hasn't so far anyway. Um, so yeah, elderly people in a care home. He's the person that's supposed to be looking after them. It's just absolutely terrible. This guy, what he's done. Anyway, he's hit the news again because he's in prison. He's got a very long prison sentence, over 100 years. But the thing is, in Spain, the maximum sentence is 40 years. He can't serve more than 40 years. Um, in which case, but he's 60 now. He's already served about 10 years, I think, of his sentence. So he's got another 30 years to go at least. But he won't serve sort of the over 100 and whatever years that he's actually got of his sentence, because here in Spain you can't serve more than 40 years. Anyway, but the reason he's hit the headlines is he's transitioned. He's decided he's not a man, after all, doesn't want to be a man anymore. He's been a man for 60 years, but doesn't want to be a man anymore. He wants to be identified as a woman, and he's been moved to a woman's facility. Oh my God. How can this be possible? How can someone get to 60 years of age, suddenly decide they want to be a woman, get indulged in this, even though they're in prison for killing many, many women, and get moved to a women's facility? Oh my God. This world is completely crazy. And I'm sorry, I don't care whether you're pro transgender, anti transgender, or what. It's not a transgender issue, it's common sense. He's 60. He's decided he wants to be identified as a woman. He's been moved to a women's facility. Those other women in that facility don't have a choice but to be around him. And he is a woman murderer. He's murdered many women. I mean, is it just me, or does that seem ludicrous? If I was in prison, God, I hope I never go to prison now, because I might get in a cell next to him or with him. My God, how does that work? I mean, has he actually had the operation yet? Or is he just, dressing up as a woman? Anyway, that's what we're going to chat about in this video. More, there's always something crazy going on in the world, isn't there? God, you can't keep up with all the craziness. Anyway, thank you for watching. Thank you for liking. Thank you for subscribing. Special thank you to my members. Special thank you to those of you who've bought Ko-fis. That's so much appreciated, especially at the moment. It seems like, I don't know if you saw my community post, but the last 3 videos that I put up were all demonetized. YouTube decided they weren't, fit for adverts for whatever reason. I never, ever put videos out that you couldn't even watch with your children, really. I mean, they're not, I don't go into gory details. I know they're true crime videos, and of course, maybe you couldn't watch them with your children, but never go into any gory details or talk about anything that YouTube should be concerned about. Just makes me so angry, because you just think, what is the point sometimes? So that's why it makes a difference when people donate, especially as I'm trying to get this new computer sorted. People send Ko-fis, super stickers that people have PayPal me, etc. Thank you so much, because you know what, if you had to rely on YouTube just to pay for your own costs of streaming and your editing software, etc. If you had to, as a small creator, if you had to rely on YouTube, you'd be paying to do your YouTube channel. Never mind, people think you're rich or something because you've got a YouTube channel. It's just not the case, as any YouTuber will tell you. But it's especially annoying then when they even demonetize. You might make €5, €10 on a video. And then you're not even going to do that because they've demonetized it. So they're not allowed to show adverts. They won't show adverts on it, which also means that it doesn't go into the algorithm the same. So you won't get as many views, etc. So they're just, it's very demoralizing, to be honest. But anyway, so thank you to those of you who do help in that little bit extra way, because otherwise I think most YouTubers would just give up. Anyway, hello, you lovely lurkers. Thank you for watching. Hello to Replay Crew. Thank you for watching. And let's have a look. Somebody's in the chat. Somebody's in the chat. So somebody's got the notification. That's the other thing. People don't get notifications a lot of the time. Really, it's like an uphill struggle, isn't it? You're just trying to raise awareness of cases and, chat with your followers. You're all like-minded people. And YouTube just seem to make it as difficult as they can for you. They don't send the notifications. Then they demonetize you. But YouTube are doing all right, though, aren't they? Hey, Lily Pauly. Hello. Hope you're well. We've got, here in Spain, we have got nice weather, at least. That's something, isn't it? So, yeah, the weather's quite nice. It was a bit chilly this morning, a bit cloudy, but I think it's going to be nice as the day goes on. So, yeah, what about that then? A Spanish serial killer. I don't remember this case at all. Now, it happened up in Catalonia, up in the sort of past Barcelona. A lot of the names that I'll be reading out are actually Catalan as opposed to Spanish. So I hope I pronounce them right, because I don't speak Catalan. But yeah, so this man, 60 years old now, a care assistant in an old people's home. Oh my God. Hi, Mark. Yeah, it just drives me mad sometimes, Mark, the YouTube thing. And once they pick up on one, you see, then they start checking even more into every single video you put out. I mean, those videos one was the Nancy Guthrie and the Epstein connection. I've noticed if you even mention the word Epstein, they're, at you. Do you know what I mean? It's like anyone might think that they didn't want you to talk about Epstein. Do you know what I mean? Sorry, what's that message? And then another one that was demonetized was Melania, talking about Melania Trump's statement. How can that be? How can that be demonetized? Yeah, somebody please explain to me. Why would they demonetize that? I was just talking about Melania's statement that she made. This didn't. Well, again, it did mention Epstein in it, so they don't like it. They don't like talking about Epstein. Strange that, isn't it? Anyway, so yeah, let's have a look at this man now. I'm just put, as I said, I couldn't find a picture of his victims. Hi, Daniel. Yeah, exactly. A lot of people, a lot of good people, Mark, working there. My brother, when he was in care, the girl that was looking after him, she was just beautiful person, looked after him so well. There are so many good people working in care, but it's just any job where you're working with vulnerable people, so it could be elderly people, disabled people, young people, of course, in nurseries and things like that. Unfortunately, those people are so vulnerable to the bad people. Any job when you're in a position of trust, a teacher, a doctor, even a dentist or anything like that, when you're in a position where you can, and especially when you're looking after elderly people, a lot of them with dementia, etc., who can't voice their concerns. It does attract bad people, sadly. How many people in the nursing profession in general got Bev Allitt, you've got the Angel of Death over in America, you've got Lucy Letby, all these people that are in position of trust. It's so easy for them to do bad things if they are bad people. And unfortunately, a lot of bad people gravitate towards those professions, but it's a shame to people who are good, and people get suspicious, don't they? But very sad, very, very sad. So let's have a look at this person. So as I say, I can't find a picture of the actual victims, but this is him. This is him on the wood. As you can see, he's quite a big guy, isn't he? A big, powerful guy. So old people, elderly women, not all his victims were women, but most of them were. They wouldn't have had a chance against this guy. Honestly, these are the worst crimes to me. Taking advantage of vulnerable people when you're in a position of trust is just the most horrible thing to me that I can imagine. And of course, their relatives, a lot of them, they would feel bad about putting them in a home as it is. Often when someone's got dementia, a home, putting them in a home is someone's last, last resort, isn't it? They can't be independent. They're very difficult to look after one-on-one, to have in your home when someone's got dementia, etc. So they put them into residencias, as they call them here in Spain. They put them into care homes. It's like a last resort, and they feel guilty enough, don't they, for putting them in these places. But they hope to God that they're being looked after. You can't be there 24 hours a day watching what's going on. I mean, there should be CCTV, I think, in these places. I mean, he's walking down the corridor in this picture. I don't know. I suppose it's against privacy, to have CCTV in people's actual rooms. Just Terrible, isn't it? Absolutely disgusting, this guy. Disgusting. So let me I'm literally reading off Wikipedia here because I didn't know about this case. This literally is a new case for me. And this guy, Joan, now I'm not sure if that's how you pronounce it, but Joan is the Catalan for Juan. So Joan Villadilme, who was born on the 26th of September 1965, is known as the caretaker of Olot and the Angel of Death, a Spanish serial killer and nursing assistant. He's responsible for at least 11 murders. We don't know, there could be loads more, committed at the Fundació La Carita in Olot. I'll have a look in a minute where Olot is. Between August 2009 and October 2010. So in 1 year, really, in 1 year, he killed 11 people. His victims were all elderly patients, aged between 80 and 96. What a twat. Sorry, pardon my French. Absolute complete twat. Let's share this actually. Oh my God. I mean, what a twonk. What a complete twonk. Imagine if your relative had been in there. Oh. Let's just check it's sharing. Yeah. So this is the Wikipedia page. So in 2014, he was found guilty by the Supreme Court of Spain and sentenced to 127 years and a half imprisonment for his crimes. But as I say, 40 years is the maximum you can serve in a Spanish prison. So he will only serve 40 years. So in 2000, so he'll be eligible to, well, he will be, it's not parole. 40 years is the maximum. So in 2054, which he's still got quite a long time to go, thank God, he'll come out. His 40 years maximum sentence for the murder of 11 vulnerable elderly patients. So he was born on the 26th of September 1965 in Catalonia, the son of a working class family of embutido makers. Embutidos are like Spanish sausages. An asocial and insecure individual, he avoided interacting with his peers due to worries about his acne, sexuality, and the significant tremors in his hands. After his arrest, he would acknowledge that throughout his childhood and youth, he felt like a woman trapped inside a man's body, and that his homosexuality had influenced some of his habits. Yeah, don't like that. So it's like, what influenced what? Because so that's like saying, does he think he was, I don't like that. What's he blaming it on homosexuality for? There's lots of homosexuals don't go around murdering elderly people. Sometimes people use anything for an excuse, don't they? Oh yeah, I'm a woman trapped in a man's body. There's lots of men who have those same feelings and don't go out around murdering people. You can't use these things as an excuse. He's just a horrible person. Some people are just wired wrong. It doesn't matter if they're gay, straight, curly, asexual. Doesn't matter if they're black, white, Muslim, Catholic, whatever. They're just horrible people. It's not to do with their background. It's to do with them not being, and people will always look for an excuse, or mental health, or it's this, or it's that, or it was my ADHD made me do it, or it's because I'm autistic. No, because there's lots of people out there who've got all those conditions. Don't go around murdering old people. So I'm sick of all these excuses, that people give him for the fact that they're just horrible people. So anyway, apparently he occupied a small apartment in Castelló de Empúries, and that's in Catalonia, and he opened a hairdressing salon named Ton Cabell Moda in Figueres, but it quickly shut down because his partner had scammed him. Oh yeah, of course it was his partner's fault. No, because he was crap at what he did. Probably his hairdressers closed down because he couldn't sort of relate to the clients or whatever. Hairdressing, it's all about your relationship with your clients, isn't it? Uh, again, so it was his partner's fault. His partner scammed him. Everything's everybody else's fault, but not his fault, is it? So he then had a myriad of jobs in plastics, textile, and skiing industries, and he even owned a restaurant. I presume they all failed, but that would have all been somebody else's fault, I suppose. He took on training courses in cooking, chiropractic, dressmaking, and reflexology. Eventually, he was hired by a small private nursing home in Banyoles, where he worked as a nursing assistant for about 8 months. While he was there, he was regarded very highly by his co-workers, who considered him an affectionate and attentive person. And for a short period, he also worked at the psychiatric centre in Salt. To me, I think he's probably a psychopath because you know what? Psychopaths can appear, they take on other people's personalities, don't they? They can appear nice. I think psychopaths, they sort of soak up other people's emotions and feelings, and they can pretend to be caring, and they can put on all these emotions because they copy them, don't they, from other people. But obviously, he wasn't that nice a person when he went on to murder at least 11 people. Just terrible, isn't it? Yeah, exactly, Mark. I'm sick of it now. How often do you hear it? Oh yeah, my parents split up, or even when they've been abused as a child or whatever, because there's lots of people out there who bad things happen to. They do not take it out on other people. So I just think there has got to be more to it than what someone's gone through, or their sexuality, or whether they're ADHD, or whether they're autistic, or whether their parents split up when they were 15 years old, or whatever. These are excuses, I think, that people use just for being an absolute twat, really. It's twatitis that he's suffering from. Hey. Anyway, so he started apparently his murder spree um, in 2006. Oh, so it also says here that his mental state gradually worsened, even though he was doing quite well. He had frequent panic attacks, low self esteem. Come on, how many of us have mental health issues, have panic attacks, have low self esteem? Again, I can't be doing with these as excuses. He was easily influenced by those around him, a heavy smoker. He was diagnosed with obsessive compulsive disorder. Oh my God, he's got himself diagnosed with everything. Tremors, sweating problems. He consumed many energy drinks. Sorry, I'm not laughing because it's funny, so I'm going to blame the energy drinks now. Often mixed with, what's that? Anxiolytics and alcohol. He was maniacal on cleanliness and he followed a compulsive diet. Well, no offense, but it doesn't look like it was a very healthy diet he was following. He's obviously, quite overweight, isn't he? So what sort of compulsive diet? You know? And at the same time, someone's sending me messages. At the same time, he began to develop an unprecedented fondness for putting makeup on the recently deceased. which was backed up by writings found on his personal computer's hard drive by the Mossos. The Mossos is the Catalonian name for the police. Someone's trying to get through to me. I'll have a look at those messages in a moment. Don't know what that's about. So yeah, and he wrote about it on his personal computer. And he had multiple books on paranormal phenomena and death, which he acquired from a local hairdresser friend. He was ordered to undertake a psychiatric evaluation. I know what that is. God, do you know, this is somebody Spanish messaging me. Oh my God, they're sending me Messenger and everything now. Spanish people don't just send you one message, with all the information. They send you little short messages. Quite often they send voice messages as well. So anyway, I'm trying to ignore it, but hopefully they've stopped now. So yeah, and it was determined that he suffered from severe depression. Again, I'm sorry, I'm not having depression as an excuse for murdering people. It's not, you can't take your things out on everybody else. Anyway, so to commit his killings, he used two methods. He would either orally administer a cocktail of barbiturates and drugs mixed with water, or he would perform intravenous injections with high doses of insulin, which he reserved for diabetic victims. God. Each death occurred within months of the last one, with several relatives reporting that their loved ones had died an agonizing death, with some of them bleeding from the mouth. And the victims, who were predominantly women aged between 80 and 96, were Rosa Barbures Pujol, Francisca Matilde Fiol, Teresa Puig Boisadera, Isidra Garcia Aceicas, Carme Villanova Vignolas, Luis Saleras Claret, Joan Canal Julia, and Montserrat Canales Montada. So those are the victims, that we know about, I suppose. So apparently, he told his colleagues that all the old women were dying on him. But the rest of the staff thought he was an attentive and efficient nurse. He put in a lot of effort to explain the circumstances of death to the deceased patient's relatives. However, they said in late September he began to undergo a change of character, becoming more uncompromising and violent. And he said he was fed up with the elderly patients. He wanted to change jobs. God. And after the murder of Joan Canal Julia on 19th of September 2010, he forced a co-worker to enter the man's room to watch over his body. And the last three murders took place in the span of 5 days between the 12th and 17th of October. And these were particularly horrible murders because he had forced his victims to drink bleach or injected them with acid or other corrosive substances directly into the mouth. Good God. And he even went to the funerals of some of his victims. Anyway, let me go. I want to read this article. So the reason, as I say, that he's back in the news, if you like, is because he's now being held in a women's unit. I mean, can you believe it? Can you believe it? So now he's decided he wants to be a woman. He wants to identify as a woman. And so so bearing in mind he's never identified as a woman, he's 60 years old and he's only just decided he wants to identify as a woman. And he's now been moved to a woman's unit. This man who has killed all these women is now in a women's unit. Come on. I mean, is it me or what? Hi, Admit. Good morning. Please let me know what you think. Am I being unfair? Is it wrong to think that someone who's 60 years old and never identified as a woman before, when they're in prison for murdering a load of women, should be allowed to become a woman and move to a woman's unit? God, if I was one of those female prisoners, I'd be going mental. Imagine it. Oh my God. Terrible. Sorry, I'm not, I just don't agree with it. But look at him. I thought he was on a strict diet or whatever. His diet wasn't working, was it? So this is this big guy, great big powerful guy, murdering little old ladies, vulnerable old ladies in his care with dementia. Oh, honestly, God, I don't believe in the death penalty, but these sort of cases, if I was ever to go along with the death penalty, it would be for a case like this. Flagrant nastiness, predatory behaviour. So one of Spain's most prolific, I bet he probably is the most prolific serial killer in Spain. We haven't got many. He's now being held in a women's correctional unit after beginning to identify as transgender while behind bars. Joan Villadilme, also known as the Olot nursing home killer, is reportedly now going by the name Ada. Sorry. Do you know what? You didn't laugh, you'd cry. This is Ada now. Ada. Got to call him Ada. Sorry. Talk about a crazy world we're living in. Oh my effing God. What is going on? Surely, everyone has the right to identify with whatever they want to identify with, but surely serial killers don't get the same rights, do they, as everybody else? How has he got the right to do this? I don't understand. When you become a serial killer, you forfeit your right, don't you? You forfeit your rights. That's the whole point of punishment. So, Villa, 60, was sentenced to 127 years in prison in 2013 for the murders of 11 elderly residents at the care home he worked in. And dubbed the Angel of Death by Spanish media, Villa was arrested following the death of an 85, oh come on, year-old resident at La Caritat nursing home in the northeastern Catalan town of Olot. Medical staff determined the woman had died after ingesting a corrosive substance, prompting authorities to classify the case as suspicious. Oh, good. Oh my God. Oh, suspicious. Yeah, it's a little bit suspicious when someone dies after eating ingesting a corrosive substance. So police soon identified Villa, a caregiver at the facility, as a person of interest, after establishing that he had been present at the time of the woman's death. During questioning, he confessed to the killing, admitting that he had forced her to drink a corrosive substance. Oh my God, that poor woman. So not only, I just cannot. I can't get my head around, obviously, why he did it in the first place. Thank God. I'm glad that I can't get my head around it, because that wouldn't say much for me, would it, if I understood why he'd done it? But a corrosive substance. So this woman, all these victims, they've lived long lives. And just like I've said about Nancy Guthrie, you get life, all the slings and arrows that life has to throw at you. You go through bereavement, you go through, I don't know, marriage breakups, or you have tragedies in your life, you lose friends, you lose your parents, you maybe have financial difficulties. You go through all that and you make it to the age of 80 just to have something like this happen to you. This it makes me speechless. These poor elderly people, they have nobody to look after them, nobody to protect them. They were murdered by the very people that are supposed to care for them and protect them. And Haiduan murdered by the very people that are supposed to care for them. They should be. I mean, the thing is, this guy, he has got a long sentence, but he'll only do 40 years. That's the other thing that's annoying me now about Spanish justice. What's the point in giving someone a sentence for 126 years or whatever if the maximum that they can serve is 40 anyway? 40 years. And he's not a young man, so he's 60 now already. But if you were only in your 20s and you murdered, I don't know, 100 people, and you'd only get 40 years maximum, so you'd still have a life, wouldn't you, when you came out, even if you were the worst twonk in the world? So, no, this is a new case for me, Joanne. That's why I'm talking about it. So the reason, because I'd never heard of this case. So the actual murder trial, etc., was over 10 years ago. But the reason why this person is in the news again is because this person has transitioned to be a woman and has been put in a women's prison with other women, and most of his victims were women. Oh my God. So he's now gone from being called Joan, which is the Catalan for Juan or John. He's now known as Ada. It's just, I don't know why, Mark. I don't know why 40 years is the maximum. No idea. I knew that there was a maximum. I mean, not everyone gets a long sentence for murder in Spain. It can be just 15 years. Let's have a look if I can get an answer up to that question. No, why? Let's see what it says on good old AI. Uh, I don't know if it's going to come up with a reason. Yeah, it just says the 40-year maximum prison sentence in Spain serves as a legal cap to balance severe punishment for multiple or extreme crimes with the constitutional goal of rehabilitation. He's never going to be rehabilitated. So basically, it's for their rights, isn't it? Ensuring that prisoners have a realistic prospect of release. And this structure reflects a legal philosophy that prioritizes rehabilitation over lifelong retribution. So it looks like in Spain they're still believing in rehabilitation. Don't know. Well, Now, apparently, in 2015, Spain reintroduced a form of life imprisonment called prisión permanente revisable for exceptionally serious crimes. But of course, this guy, his case was before that. So maybe if he would have been being sentenced today, uh, you know, he would maybe he would have got that. But even under that, the penalty is reviewed every 25 to 35 years, and potential parole is always a possibility. So it says although a lot of people debate its effectiveness, it remains a cornerstone of the Spanish penal system, balancing justice for victims with the legal requirement of the possibility of reintegration. For fuck's sake. Sorry, excuse my French. So what? Are they, was he going to come out of prison and get another job in a care home? I mean, at the end of the day, it's not difficult to get a job in a care home because nobody wants to do it. Nobody wants to work in care homes, do they all? It's not a nice job. It's not a well-paid job. So they're desperate normally for people, aren't they, in care homes? But, I've always thought that care home assistants, they should be paid so much more because it's such an important job. But, it all goes down to the fact that once people get old, they're not valuable to society. And if they're not valuable to society, people don't give a shit what happens to them. That's how it feels sometimes. Only their own relatives care, and sometimes even their relatives don't care. They put them in a home and just don't want to think about them anymore. Just not right, is it? No, it's not right, is it, Joanne? Terrible, disgusting. And in the meantime, not only that he's, got a possibility of coming out of prison in some point, who's paying for his transition? So if he's in prison and he's decided he wants to transition to be a woman and now has been put in a woman's prison, has he had the operation? Is he having surgery? Is he having the treatment? Who's paying for it? Spanish taxpayer? Is he, who is transitioning him if he's in prison? He shouldn't be allowed to transition in prison. He shouldn't have the same rights of somebody who's outside of. I mean, I don't know how it works in Spain if you can get a transition on the health. We have a good health service in Spain, a free health service. Well, you pay for it in your wages. You have to pay into the social security system. But if he's worked for a certain length of time, he'll have paid into the system at some point. But when you go into prison, you shouldn't have the right to be able to transition to become, they have to have life-saving treatment, of course. If they have a heart attack, they have to be treated. You can't just leave them to die, even though it might be tempting. But really, transitioning to become a woman, it's not life or death thing, is it? So how is he even allowed to do that? And who's actually paying for it? The Spanish taxpayer? Maybe the people whose relatives he murdered indirectly are paying for it through their taxes that they pay in their work. Terrible. So apparently he only confessed initially to 3 murders, but a subsequent investigation revealed a far more extensive pattern of abuse. I think there's bound to be more as well. Authorities ultimately linked him to at least 11 deaths at the nursing home, 9 women and 2 men. Now the other thing is, as you get older, all his victims were over the age of 80. So there's not, when they die, it's not entirely unexpected, is it? Somebody dies, at that age. It's easily explained away, isn't it? And they probably didn't look into it too closely in the beginning. The victims, all of whom were between 80 and 90 years of age, were identified as, we need to mention their names again. I say, I can't find photos of them. Rosa Barbores Pujol, Francisca Matilde Fiol, Teresa Puig Buisadera, Isidra Garcia Aceijas, Carme Villanova Vignolas, Luis Salleras Claret. Now, as I say, I don't speak Catalan, I speak Spanish, so I hope I'm not pronouncing these wrong, I probably am. Joan Canal Julia, Montserrat Canalias Muntada, Sabina Mas Lorenz Sala, Montserrat Guillamet Bartolich, Paquita Girones y Quintana. Now, when you read them all out like that, I think when you read out the names, it does give you more of a sense, doesn't it, of the vastness or the depth of these crimes, because it takes time to read those names out. There's so many of them, and they're the minimum. I mean, there's bound to be others, I would imagine. I do think reading the names out, although I haven't, it's a shame I haven't got photos of them, to actually show the people. But I think it resonates more when you read all those names out. He's responsible for all those deaths. So I'll tell you what, even if he doesn't pay in this life, he would definitely be paying in the next life. I hope they all haunt him. When he closes his eyes at night to go to sleep, I hope all these victims are there, bloody surrounding him. So all these murders were carried out between August of 2009 and October of 2010. So literally in the space of less than a year, 11 people. That's one a month, if you think of it that way. So investigators determined that Villa had evaded detection for an extended period by initially employing methods that were difficult to trace. In early cases, he administered cocktails of barbiturates and other drugs mixed with water, or delivered high doses of insulin intravenously to diabetic patients. These methods often led to the deaths being mistakenly classified as natural or medical. Yeah, no one's going to look into the death of an 80-odd-year-old too closely, are they? Terrible. By September of 2010, colleagues began noticing a marked shift in his behaviour. He reportedly became increasingly aggressive, expressed frustration with caring for elderly residents, stating that he wanted to leave his job. And following one of his later killings, he allegedly compelled a co-worker to remain in the victim's room and watch over her body. It was a man, that actually. The final series of murders occurred within a 5-day span between October the 12th and the 17th. So in 5 days, he killed 4 people. He killed Sabina Mas Llorens y Sala, Montserrat Guillamet Bartolich, 3 people, and Paquita Girones Quintana. In these cases, he abandoned his earlier methods and instead he forced them to ingest bleach. Oh my God, what a twat. Or injected corrosive substances directly into their mouths. I mean, this is just heartbreaking because do you imagine you being that old and maybe having dementia and that, and then a great big massive twonk like him comes up and forces you to take this stuff in your mouth? Well, you wouldn't have a chance against him, would you? Horrible man. Absolutely horrible man. I'm really, really angry now. really angry. You can feel I'm getting really angry. Um, oh my God. Urgh. What a vile man. I mean, he just doesn't deserve any of our sympathy whatsoever. Are we supposed to feel sorry because he's got depression and he really was always a woman trapped in a man's body? Couldn't give a shit. How many people are out there who are probably going through that kind of feeling, which is a horrible feeling? They're not going off and murdering people. Stop using it as an excuse. God, it's not an excuse for killing people because you're bloody miserable. You know, just, oh, well, yeah, like that girl, isn't it, that said she didn't like Mondays. That's why she shot all them kids. So what are you going to do? Like, oh, I'm having a bad day, so I think I'll just go and kill some people because I'm depressed. Feel like a woman trapped in a man's body. Oh my God. Oh, I know what I'll do. I'll go and kill a load of old people. God. So these substances, which included sodium hypochlorite, cause severe internal injuries, burning the esophagus, mucous membranes, and lungs, and resulting in extreme pain. His last victim, Paquita Girones Quintana, was a widow suffering from episodes of dementia. She had been living at La Caritat for several years, and she'd developed a hostile relationship with Villa. In the weeks leading up to her death, she reportedly attempted to alert staff and family members to alleged abuse, claiming he had slapped her, but her complaints were ignored. Poor woman. Investigators reviewing CCTV footage later determined that Villa had moved Girones Quintana in a wheelchair to a ward without video surveillance. She was subsequently found with injuries to her face and breast. Bless her. On the evening of October the 17th, Villa, who admitted he'd been drinking wine on duty, oh, he was drinking wine and Coca-Cola while he was on duty as well, which is a popular drink in Spain, a calamucho. So it's red wine and Coca-Cola. He was drinking on duty. He checked on her after hearing her cough. Observing she was disorientated and struggling to breathe, he retrieved a syringe, filled it with laundry detergent, and forced it into her throat. Despite being transported to the emergency room, she died from her injuries. Look at him, great big bloody toad. Oh my God. Well, he's going to make a very attractive woman, isn't he? He's going to make a very attractive woman. No, just, oh God, this world is too crazy sometimes. Villa was ultimately convicted, sentenced to 127 years in prison. However, under Spanish law, the effective maximum time served is capped at 40 years, meaning he could be eligible for release in 2053. If he remains alive, let's hope he doesn't remain alive, eh? Serving his sentence at Puig de las Basses prison in Figueres since his arrest in 2010, he has now adopted a new female name, with competing outlets claiming he's going either by Ada or Aura. He can go by what he wants. He'll never look like a woman. He'll never be a woman. He's just doing something for attention. During their report, the mainstream Spanish paper referred to Villa in the feminine and attempted to minimize any allegations that this was done in order to gain any special treatment, arguing that her transition does not entail any benefits related to her sentence. Well, I'll tell you what the benefit is. She's now going on to a women's facility surrounded by women who were her victims. You know, oh my God. Oh my God. They further note that Villa had allegedly felt said he felt like a woman trapped in a man's body back during the initial investigation and trial. As of now, he has yet to undergo any surgical alterations. So he's got a PENIS. So he's not, oh my God. Oh, how's that going to work in a women's facility? He's a man, he's still an intact man. How's that going to work? Somebody tell me. Sometimes people accuse, if you point out these things, sometimes people accuse you of being anti-trans. It's not about being anti-trans. This man is still a man. And even when he's had the operation, that really, I don't believe that he's got to 60 and then, even if at 50, when he was at trial, he said that he felt like a woman trapped in a man's body. Well, he should have done something about it earlier, shouldn't he? Seems strange to me that he's suddenly doing something about it. So apparently he has plans to undergo surgical alterations. And again, my question would be, who's paying for that then? How's he going to undergo surgical alterations while he's in prison? Who's paying for it? The Spanish taxpayer, the relatives of his victims, maybe, indirectly. Oh yeah, his gender-affirming cosmetic surgeries will be paid for by Spain's public healthcare system. Well, as always, let me know what you think, but I think you know what I think. I think it's disgusting because he's murdered 11 people. He's not entitled to the same rights as everybody else. When you murder 11 people and you go to prison, that's the whole point of it. You forfeit your rights that you would have in normal life. I think it's disgusting. I really do think it's disgusting. And are people going to surely people are going to protest about that. Surely the relatives of his victims aren't going to be happy about that. Yeah, exactly. This guy, hi David, you've come in just in time to get annoyed. Exactly. He's still got his member and he's in a women's prison. And, for those of you who missed what we were saying right at the beginning, when he was being tried, he blamed his homosexuality, confusions about his sexuality. What else did he have? Did he mental illness, depression, etc.? Oh, he came out with all sorts of reasons why he's murdered 11 vulnerable elderly people. Disgusting. The reason he did it is because he's a fucking horrible person. That's why he did it. And how can you blame it on being homosexual or being trapped in a man's body? Well, that's why he went and murdered 11 elderly people then. Is that a reason? It's just a load of crap. He did it because he's a nasty, horrible person. Whether he's gay, straight, transsexual, gender fluid or whatever. Some people are just not nice people, and he's one of them. And you know what? If I was one of those other people, like transsexual or gender fluid or homosexual or whatever, I'd be fucking fuming that he was blaming it on that. I would be so angry with because it's just like, what? It's just like, get a grip. It's rubbish. It's rubbish. Bad people blame their bad actions on anything they can think of, don't they? Oh yeah, come from a broken home. Oh yeah, so, like along with millions of other people who don't do these things. No, some people are just bad. They are bad. They're just rotten, evil people, regardless of their sexuality or their background, or, you know, their mum didn't love them enough, or blah de blah de blah de bloody blah. They're just horrible people, and they just blame it on everybody else because they can't take responsibility for their own actions. I think this is something that's missing in society today. Taking responsibility for yourself, not blaming everything on other people. Yes, sometimes, God, people do go through traumas in their lives, and sometimes they are treated badly by their families or by other people. But there comes a time where you've got to stand up and say, look, this is my life. I'm going to do this. I'm not letting this define me. This is what they should be teaching people in school, to be, independent, not to blame all their ailments and problems on everybody else. Take responsibility for yourself. Individual responsibility is important. You know, and the thing is, they're not even taking it out. Like, you could understand, like, if somebody was treated really badly by somebody and they took it out on them, somebody that had hurt them, done terrible things to them, and they went off and took it out on them. But to take out your imagined slights from everybody else, take it out on elderly people who've got nothing to do with you, nothing bad to you, but you're using your things that happen to you as a reason for putting acid down some old lady's throat. Even though it was nothing to do with her. It's just wrong, completely wrong. If you've got a grudge against somebody did something terrible to you, go and take it out on them. They maybe deserve it. These old people, mainly women, did not deserve it. So, I'm just not having it. I hope, do you know what? I really do wish bad on this person. I just, oh my God. And as I say, I don't believe in the death penalty per se, but if the death penalty ever came back, this would be a prime case for the death penalty for me. Proved beyond a reasonable doubt, murdering several vulnerable people while you're in a position of trust, murdering them in a cruel way, painfully, etc. What could be a better case for the death penalty if it was ever to be brought back? But I don't agree with it. I'll never agree with the death penalty. But if it was ever to come back beyond my control, this would be a case that I wouldn't lose too much sleep over. So anyway, there you go. Yes. Yeah, red wine and Coke is a very popular drink in Spain, Joanne, in the summer especially. So you get a tumbler of red wine, and I mean a long, tall glass of red wine, of 3/4 red wine maybe, or half red wine probably, and then top it up with Coke, Coca-Cola, or Coke Lights if you're trying to save a few calories, and they're called calamuchos. You could put some fruit in. It's a bit like a sangria in a way. So it's a calamucho, it's called. And if you have it with Diet Coke, it's a calamucho light. Very nice drink. You wouldn't, you think, I remember thinking that, what? Red wine and Coca-Cola, but it's actually really nice with lots of ice uh, and bit lemon or fruit or whatever. It's a lovely drink. I might be able to find a photo of that actually. I'm quite partial to it in the summer. Let's have a look at the images. I can't see an image of it. I think I've spelt it wrong. It's Calimucho. Calimucho. There you go. Let's have a look. I'll share it. Yeah. Yeah. There's your Calimuchos. Very nice drink. If you're ever, well, you don't have to be in Spain to try it. You try it wherever you are. So you get like a tumbler type glass, a tall glass, like we call them tubos here in Spain. Half fill it up with red wine and ice, and then top it up with Coca-Cola, or Diet Coke if you prefer a Diet Coke, but it's really nice. Oh, sorry to hear that, David, about your family member. Sorry, I'm just having a little look now through the. Yeah, exactly. It's not life-saving surgery. I mean, at the end of the day, if he's in prison, no matter what he's done, if he needs, heart surgery or something, they have to do it, and I understand that. But I can't believe that. I wouldn't have thought the Spanish would be very happy about that, to be honest. You wouldn't be, would you? If you're thinking your taxes, what your taxes going on, no paying for some twat who's murdered 11 people, could be your family member that he murdered. Anybody, any of us could be our family member, or it could be us one day. Everybody could end up in a home. His victims were indiscriminate. The only thing they had in common was that they're all vulnerable, and he was in a position of trust. That, I do think that is doubly, it's bad enough. Anybody who does anything to anybody is bad, and then it goes up in increments, doesn't it? Then you think, oh well, they're in a position of trust. That makes it worse. The person was particularly vulnerable, like an elderly person with dementia or whatever, or a child. These are all extra deviant qualities, if you like. But the fact that someone's in a position of trust, it should always be more treated more seriously, because God, I mean, what else can you do with your elderly? Your elderly parents, or even with you as you get older. You don't have a choice. You have to entrust your relatives, your loved ones, if they've got dementia, whether your parents, or like I say, my brother was in a care home, and luckily he had the most lovely carers. Thank God for that. But he could have been a victim of this. Anyone could. That's the other thing about this. It could affect any of us or any of our loved ones. And this great big fat twonk, he, just used his power to hurt vulnerable people. It's terrible. It's awful, actually. Awful, awful. It was the Okay. Anyway, sorry, I was reading the chat then. I've got to go now. I am hoping to be back again later. I've got another video, another serial killer I want to talk about, Rex Harmon, and how he's been reacting in prison. But as always, just let me know what you think about this big fat twonk. Should he be in a women's prison? He's not a woman. He's not a woman. Even when he's had the operation, he still won't be a woman. As far as I'm concerned, he'll be a transgender woman. But he's not even had the operation yet. Not even had the operation yet, and he's in a women's prison. Oh my God, those other women that are in there, they'd be fucking fuming, wouldn't they? I'd be fuming, that's for sure. Oh God, well, are they all supposed to go in the showers together? He's got his tackle bloody flying around. I mean, how's that going to work? How is that going to work? So what, he didn't want to be in a men's prison because he didn't want to be surrounded with all those men because he feels like he's a woman. You think he'd be glad to be with the men, really, if he's homosexual. Oh God, just the mind boggles. The mind boggles. Oh, thank you, Joanne. Thank you. Yeah, do you know, I've got a little bit of a tan because I have been trying to get some sun lately because we've had some sun. I'm going to be out hopefully later, get a couple of hours. Just gradually build up a tan because when it starts getting too hot here, I won't be able to go out in the sun at all. I'm normally as white as a sheet. You know, normally when friends and family come over, they're browner than me. But this is a time that I do like to get a bit of sun in the springtime before it gets too hot. Right, now I'm just going to check actually one thing before I go. Because I don't know if you know, but last night, overnight, because of course I was up really late last night doing the video about Celine Kremer, there was a lot of talk about developments in the Nancy Guthrie case. Now, nothing's emerged this morning, but there was a big hoo-ha because apparently during the Today Show yesterday, Savannah disappeared. Went to a break, to a commercial break or whatever, and Savannah was there talking. I think she was going to do an interview with Anne Hathaway, the actress. And then when it came back, it wasn't Savannah anymore. So she exited mid-episode. And then, so there was massive speculation that there was going to be a break of some kind, in the case, a break in the case. And why had Savannah left in mid-episode? But nothing, Savannah Guthrie disappeared in the middle of an episode. I mean, she may have just got upset or something. I mean, you don't know, but it says she was talking to Anne Hathaway, asking her questions when there was a commercial break. But when the show returned after the break, Guthrie was gone and Hoda Kotb was in her place. And nothing was said about the sudden switch on air, leading to speculation it could be due to a development in the case. I bloody hope so. We need a development in that case. Let's see if there will be a development. I hope so. Yeah, I mean, could be she got upset, and decided she'll carry on with the interview, or it may be that news came through. That's been interesting, like last night. This is just me. How when I go and pick up number one son from work, when I do that late night journey, I had to do it last night, through the spooky sort of dark. Quite often I've felt like Nancy was with me. I've mentioned this before. Last night I suddenly didn't feel like she was there. It was a very strange feeling. I didn't feel her at all. This was before I even knew about this, and I thought, well, she moved on. What's going on? But anyway, maybe there has been a break. Maybe she's been on. I'm just sort of waffling now, but just something that occurred to me. Okay, I'll see you really soon in the next video, and until then, may your God go with you. Bye, and don't forget to like, subscribe, press notifications, and leave a comment. Let me know what you think about this twonk. Bye.